Hello, valued viewers. Today, I'm thrilled to bring you an incredibly shocking and satisfying story. Kicked out with just $23 in her bank, 4 diapers, and a broken wooden comb. But just like a traditional Korean kite that rides the fiercest winter winds, her silent revenge begins now.
You probably can't even afford a lawyer. I'll raise Ava. You don't have the financial means to do that.
Watch me.
The husband set a single document on the kitchen table. A lawyer stood in the doorway. Jasmine was given 2 hours. 2 hours to pack. What she carried out of a 2,990 square foot apartment in Cheongdam-dong, a 2-year-old daughter. 4 diapers, 2 passports, and an old wooden comb with 3 broken teeth. That was all. 6 months later, that comb would bring down a $400 million fraud. Park Jun-hyuk did not know that the day he handed her the paper. Tuesday, January 14, 2025, 4:15 a.m. Itaewon, Seoul, -6 degrees Celsius. 3 minutes on foot from Itaewon Station, Line 6. A semi-basement room, 14 square meters. 250,000 won a month, under $200. No deposit. Jasmine Adeyemi, 28. Nigerian American. Former startup CEO. Current bank balance, 31,400 won. About $24. She sat on the floor. Every 8 minutes, a train passed. Every 8 minutes, the floor shook. Every 8 minutes, the fluorescent tube on the ceiling shivered. She did not cry. She held the wooden comb in both hands. Lagos, Nigeria. Her grandmother, Abiodun, had carved the comb by hand. 3 teeth gone. 3 hairline cracks down the wooden body. Jasmine rubbed the gaps with her thumb. She did not say why. No one asked. A question forms. A woman who left everything behind. Why did she take that comb? And only that. In the corner, 2-year-old Eva slept. Caramel brown skin, her mother's large round eyes, closed now. Over the soft slope of her father's eyes, a single loop curl had fallen across her cheek. The last formula Eva drank was 2 days past its expiration date. Jasmine listened to her daughter breathe and tightened her grip on the comb. Eva, Mommy is taking you home. I promise. It was the only thing she said to herself that night. Go back 6 months. Cheongdam-dong, Gangnam. 2,900 square feet. A view of the Han River. Maintenance 870,000 won a month. The husband, Park Jun-hyuk, 34. The only son of a managing director at a subsidiary of Korea's 12th largest conglomerate. The two had met in New York. Jasmine was then the CEO of a natural African hair care startup. 11 employees. Annual revenue, $3.4 million. Park approached her as an investor. The wedding was held in a grand ballroom at a hotel on Jeju Island. 350 guests. A 7-tier cake. 2 years later, Park set a single document on the table. The document was titled Prenuptial Agreement. The date had been backdated to the day of the wedding. In the line for Jasmine's signature, a signature was already there. Jasmine looked at it for 3 seconds. The handwriting was different. The ink was different. The pressure on the digits of the date was different. It was not her signature. What is this? It was not a question. Park did not look at her eyes. Read it. All of it is for your benefit. Clause 7. All business-related assets acquired during the marriage revert to Park Jun-hyuk as sole owner. Clause 11. In the event of divorce, custody of the child goes to the spouse with proven financial stability. Clause 14. A foreign national spouse shall vacate the current residence within 30 days of divorce. Furthermore, the proprietary assets and technology of the former spouse's family and affiliated companies shall not be infringed under any circumstances. And this shall apply reciprocally to both parties. It took Jasmine 4 minutes to read the document. For those 4 minutes, Park looked out the window. It was a window with a view of the Han River. Park had inserted Clause 14 for one reason, so that after the divorce, Jasmine could never touch the wealth or the technology of the Park family. It was a trap, dug to leave her with nothing. How that trap would come back, Park did not know that day. Here, a second question forms. Why did Park produce this document in the second year of the marriage? Why now? The patent Jasmine's startup had carried from New York was granted in the 11th month of the marriage's second year. Patent number US 11,342,891B2. A natural shea butter-based manufacturing formula for Afro hair restoration. Park produced the document exactly 17 days after that registration cleared. Jasmine did not know that number that day. The lawyer from Park's firm arrived at 3 p.m. 2 hours to pack. 2 hours to pack. He stood in the doorway and watched the clock. That was all. What Jasmine took, Eva, 4 diapers, 2 passports, the wooden comb, 4 credit cards were already frozen. The joint account read 0. All that remained was 31,400 won in an old personal account Park had failed to freeze. Just before the elevator doors closed in the Cheongdam-dong building, Park spoke from the end of the hall. You won't even have money for a lawyer. Eva stays with me. The elevator doors closed. Jasmine held Eva to her chest and pressed the lobby button. 20 seconds to the lobby. Her knees shook. Her back went rigid. The moment her feet touched the lobby floor, she did not stop. She walked down a Cheongdam-dong boulevard at -6 degrees. Eva in her arms, she simply walked. The one who handed her the key to the Itaewon semi-basement was the landlady, old Mrs. Choi. The old woman studied Jasmine's face for 5 minutes, saying nothing. She looked at Eva. She looked at the wooden comb. She looked back at Jasmine. Then she held out the key. She did not ask why. Jasmine did not explain. A third question forms. Why did the old woman study that face for 5 minutes? Why did she hand over the key without asking anything? Park's firm filed for divorce, and at the same time, a petition for sole custody with the Seoul family court. The petition rested on one argument. A foreign national single mother with no financial means is unfit to raise a child in the Republic of Korea. Seoul Family Court, case number 2025, Dudon 8847. Jasmine received the petition by email in the Itaewon semi-basement. Eva slept beside her. The fluorescent light shivered. Every 8 minutes, a train passed. Jasmine closed the email. She took out the wooden comb. In Lagos, her grandmother Abiodun used to say, "The comb wears down to nothing, but the hair remains. What you carry, no one can take from you, Jasmine." Jasmine rubbed the broken gaps with her thumb. A train passed. The floor trembled. Eva's loop curls swayed on the collar of her coat. A fourth question. Park took the money and the papers. What was it he could not take? When morning comes, she goes out. The next morning, 7:22 a.m., Jasmine bound Eva to her back with a wrap. She slid the wooden comb into the inner pocket of her coat. Bank balance, 31,400 won. She went out. The steps in front of the Itaewon Mosque. She chose the spot for one reason. It was the single corner where the most people with afro hair passed, anywhere in Seoul. Jasmine unfolded one folding chair. She set a small handbag beside it. Inside the bag, 3 jars of natural shea butter balm, made the way her grandmother had taught her. Raw material from Lagos. A formula she blended herself. That was Jasmine Adeyemi's first store. 1 chair, 1 bag. The Itaewon steps at -5 degrees. The first day, there were no customers. 2 Nigerian students passing by stopped, then walked on. An Ethiopian woman glanced at Eva and kept going. 3 Korean women looked at Jasmine and murmured to each other. Jasmine did not listen. At 3:47 p.m., the first customer came. The first customer came. A student from Ghana. Her hair was badly broken off. Jasmine worked that hair for 30 minutes. She took no money. The student looked back once as she left. By the 3rd day, word had spread. There is a black woman in front of the mosque, a baby on her back, who works hair. Her hands are something else. Let her touch it once, and the hair comes back to life. The customers grew. By the 10th day, Jasmine was braiding 6 heads a day. Income ran between 80,000 and 120,000 won a day. Eva's formula went back to being in date. First Wednesday of February, 2 p.m. From the direction of Uljiro, a man was walking toward Itaewon. 34. 178 centimeters. Worn carpenter's coveralls. Engine grease ground in under his nails, the kind that does not wash out. Ji-hune, owner of a furniture workshop down an alley in Uljiro. He was passing the steps of the Itaewon mosque when he stopped. He saw Jasmine's face. He stood there for 3 seconds. Jasmine was working a customer's hair. She did not look up. Ji-hune recognized her. Jasmine did not recognize him. Another question forms. Why did Ji-hune freeze where he stood? Where had the two of them met before? Why does Jasmine not remember him? Ji-hune did not speak to her there. He simply walked. But about 20 meters toward Uljiro, he stopped. He looked back. Jasmine was still bent over, working the hair. Ji-hune took out his wallet. From a clear inner pocket, he drew a folded slip of paper and opened it. The paper was old. The crease was worn through. Go back 7 years. March 2018. Williamsburg, Brooklyn, New York. Ji-hune was 27. 8 months into a trip to New York to study furniture design. A visa problem had cut off his scholarship. The landlord told him to put his things out. What he had, one solid wood table he had made by hand, and 2 chairs. He set them on the street to sell. Brooklyn in March was -4 degrees. Ji-hune had no gloves. His fingertips had split in the cold. Blood had seeped from the tips of his right index and middle fingers. With that hand, he set the table down on the pavement. No one bought it. It began to rain. Rainwater spread across the wet wood. Blood and rain mixed and ran down the edge of the table. Ji-hune stood there. He did not move. Then a woman stopped. 26. Nigerian American. CEO of a natural hair care startup. Jasmine Adeyemi. She ran her hand across the wet wood. She moved her fingers slowly along the grain. She did not avoid the blood and rain at the table's edge. She simply ran her hand across it. Then she looked at Ji-hune's hand. She looked at the split fingertips. She looked at his face. Did you make this? Yes. How much? $500. Jasmine shook her head. This is not a $500 table. Ji-hune took that for a refusal. Jasmine took a business card from her bag. Can you take on the entire interior of my store? My shop is on Bedford Avenue, Brooklyn. Ji-hune could not get a word out. $14,000. I will write the contract. Right now. It was raining. Rainwater fell on Ji-hune's split fingers. Jasmine took off her own jacket and laid it over the table, so the ink on the contract would not run. Ji-hune took the contract with a blood-stained hand. He gripped the pen. His hand shook. Whether from the cold or from something else, he did not stop to tell the difference. He simply signed. The signing was done, and just before Jasmine left, she took a small note from her bag and wrote something on it. She handed it to Ji-hune. One sentence was written on it, in her own hand. Your talent is greater than this city. Ji-hune put the note in his wallet. For 7 years, he did not take it out. He left it there until the crease wore through. But what he truly kept was not the paper. That day, Ji-hune had looked at her fingertips before he looked at the contract. Each time her fingers crossed the rain-soaked wood, a foreign trace of shea butter rose through the acrid smell of the rain. When she slipped off her own jacket and laid it over the wet table, the gray Brooklyn sky seemed to stop behind her thin shoulders. Her breath had been close enough that he stopped feeling the pain in his split fingers. For 7 years, what he carried was not a $14,000 contract. It was the cool, deep eyes that looked down at him in the rain, and that scent crossing the tip of his nose. Back to Itaewon, February 2025. Ji-hune folded the note and put it back in his wallet. He turned toward Uljiro. He went back to the workshop. That night, Ji-hune cleared a corner of the workshop. He moved an old toolbox. He pulled down a shelf. He swept the floor. It was 4 square meters. 1 window, 1 outlet. He cleared the space and said nothing. The next morning, Ji-hune came back to the front of the Itaewon Mosque. Jasmine was braiding a customer's hair. Ji-hune stood in front of her. I run a workshop in Uljiro. Jasmine looked up. There is a corner you can use. It is heated. It is free. Jasmine looked at him. She looked at Eva. She looked at him again. Why? Ji-hune paused. I owe a debt from 7 years ago. Jasmine did not know what the words meant. Ji-hune did not explain. Brooklyn, 7 years ago. The one who saved me then was you. Jasmine's hand stopped. She looked at his face again. Williamsburg, Brooklyn. In the rain. The wet wood table. The $14,000 contract. Jasmine's eyes slowly widened. Ji-hune took out his wallet. From the inner pocket, he drew the folded note and held it out to her. The note was old, the crease worn through. The ink had run, but the letters remained. Your talent is greater than this city. It was Jasmine's own handwriting, words she had written 7 years ago in the Brooklyn rain. Jasmine did not take the note. She pressed her finger once over the letters. Then she looked at Ji-hune. Where is Uljiro? Ji-hune pointed the way. Jasmine folded the chair. She picked up her bag. She bound Eva tight to her back with the wrap, and she walked. She demanded no explanation. She asked no terms. She simply walked. Down an alley in Uljiro Triga, Ji-hune's workshop had no sign. A steel sliding door, sawdust piled on the frame. When the door opened, the smell came first. The sharp, acrid smell of sawdust from cutting solid wood. Jasmine paused a beat at the door. Then she went in. The 4 square meters Ji-hune had cleared were in the north corner of the workshop. 1 window, 1 outlet, 1 old wooden shelf. Jasmine set her bag down in that space. She set 3 jars of shea butter balm on the shelf. That was the first store inside the Uljiro workshop. The first night. Once Jasmine had put Eva to sleep, Ji-hune was alone in the workshop. He pulled out the scrap wood stacked in a corner. Walnut. Discarded pieces. Ji-hune ran his hand over them. He checked the grain. He measured the thickness. He wrote dimensions on a notepad. Then he began to work. It was 11 at night. 3 days later, when Jasmine opened the workshop door, the space had changed. In the 4 square meter corner stood a chair. A styling chair made of walnut. The backrest sat at exactly 110 degrees. The armrest height matched the length of Jasmine's arm. Ji-hune had never measured Jasmine's arm. He had only watched. For 3 days, watching her work customers' hair, he had measured the angle by eye. Beside the chair stood a crib. Same walnut. The bars were spaced narrower than the width of Eva's shoulders, so that Eva could not slip through. Jasmine ran her hand over the chair. She moved her fingers slowly along the grain. The same motion as touching the wet table in the Brooklyn rain 7 years before. Ji-hune was working on the far side of the shop. He did not look at her. The same hands. It was the only thing she said that morning. Inside the Uljiro workshop, Jasmine's customers grew. It was different from the Itaewon stoop. To sit in a solid wood chair, to breathe shea butter, to hand over your hair, that was a different thing. Word spread through the global Black international student community. There is an Afro hair healing space inside a furniture workshop in Uljiro. Bookings filled. 3 days of slots sold out in a single day. Jasmine worked 10 heads a day. For the first time, a day's income passed 200,000 won. Every evening, Ji-hune read Eva a picture book. In Korean, his pronunciation was clumsy. He stumbled over sentences. Each time he got a word wrong, Eva reached out a hand. Ji-hune read the wrong part again. Each time, Eva drew her hand back. Jasmine watched from a corner of the shop. She said nothing. She did not stop her hands, blending the shea butter balm. She simply watched. It was the second week of March. One of Jasmine's regulars, a Kenyan student named Amelia, posted a short clip. 15 seconds. Jasmine braiding hair. a customer in the walnut chair in Uljiro. In the background, wooden shelves and tools. You could almost smell the sawdust on. Ava, asleep in the crib. No captions. No music. A 15-second clip. 11 hours after it went up, the clip passed 340,000 views. 87,000 shares on Instagram Reels. 1,200 re-uploads on TikTok. Shared at once across 3 Black mother community groups in the U.S. The comments came. Why is a quip of a black woman in Seoul braiding hair with her baby asleep destroying me like this? Who made that wooden chair? Where do I buy that shea butter? Open a fund. That night, Jasmine opened a Kickstarter page. One title: Jasmine's Afro Hair Healing, Seoul. Goal $50,000. Within 72 hours, the goal was hit at 1,000%. $500,000. About 650 million won. Backers from 34 countries. Jasmine checked the number on her phone in the corner of the workshop. Ji-hune was working on the far side. Jasmine set the phone down. She said nothing. Then the steel sliding door of the workshop opened. An associate from Park's law firm. He held a document envelope. He saw Jasmine and held it out. A hearing notice from the Seoul Family Court. Custody hearing. April 3rd, 2025, 10 a.m. The associate left the document. It left the document and went. Ji-hune stopped working and looked at it. He looked at Jasmine. Jasmine folded the document and put it in her bag. Then she picked up the next customer's hair. That night, Ji-hune did not turn off the workshop lights. Even after Jasmine had put Eva to sleep, he sat at the workbench. He did not work. He took out his phone and opened his contacts. Kang-min. Attorney. A saved number. His finger hovered over the call button. It stayed there 3 seconds. Then he set the phone down. He picked it up again. He pressed call. Inside the Uljiro workshop, the smell of sawdust mixed with shea butter. Jasmine's work bag hung on the walnut styling chair. Ava slept in the crib. Loop curls spread quietly across the mattress. Ji-hune's call connected. Attorney Kang-min. It is Ji-hune. There are some documents you need to see. Outside, a cold wind ran down the Uljiro alley. Look closely at what happened in one corner of a Uljiro workshop. And this is not a simple story of survival. When everything is stripped away, what a person reaches for first, this scene shows it, without a word. What Jasmine carried out of 3,000 square feet in Cheongdam-dong was not money, not clothing, but her grandmother's comb. What Ji-hune carried in his wallet for 7 years was not a contract, but a single handwritten line. The things that cannot be taken are the things that turn the board. Attorney Kang-min came to the Uljiro workshop the next morning. 45. A forensic attorney specializing in white-collar financial crime. Seoul National University, Law School in New York State. 11 years as an advisor to the Financial Supervisory Service. He was a regular at Ji-hune's workshop. 3 years earlier, he had commissioned an office desk from Ji-hune, and he had dropped by now and then since. Kang-min opened the door and looked at Jasmine. She sat in the walnut chair, braiding a customer's hair. Ava slept in the crib. Kang-min looked at Ji-hune. That is her. Kang-min set down his briefcase and sat in the chair beside Jasmine. Jasmine finished braiding the customer's hair as she spoke. What documents do you need? Everything you have. From before the marriage to now. Jasmine did not look up. Why? There is something I need to check. Jasmine finished the braid. She sent the customer off. Then she took a stack of documents from her bag. 2 files. One was the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office registration. One was the business registration for Jasmine's pre-marriage startup. Kang-min took the files and opened them. He saw the first page, and his finger stopped. Kang-min said nothing. He turned to the second page. The third, patent number US 11,342,891B2. Natural shea butter-based manufacturing formula for Afro hair restoration. Applicant Jasmine Adeyemi. Filing date, August 3, 2022. Registration granted, March 17, 2023. Kang-min closed the file. He took out his phone. He typed the corporate name of Park's Gangnam Beauty Salon into the search bar. A result came up. Kang-min zoomed in on the screen. He looked at it for 3 seconds. There it is. Kang-min held the phone out to Jasmine. On the screen was the business registration. Corporate name, JH Beauty Holdings. CEO Park Jun-hyuk. Founded May 2nd, 2023. Exactly 46 days after Jasmine's patent was granted. Headquarters in Cheongdam-dong, Gangnam. 4 directly operated salons. 23 franchises. Estimated valuation, $400 million. Flagship product line. Natural shea butter-based Afro hair restoration care. Jasmine looked at the screen. She looked again. Her fingers stopped. Kang-min spoke. This prenuptial agreement is a noose around your husband's neck. Jasmine looked at him. Clause 7. All business-related assets acquired during the marriage belong solely to Park Jun-hyuk. But this patent was filed in your name before the marriage. It was only granted during it. Jasmine said nothing. And Clause 14. After divorce, the proprietary assets and technology of the former spouse's family and affiliates may not be infringed under any circumstances. And this applies reciprocally to both parties. Kang-min paused. Do you know why this clause is in here? Jasmine shook her head. Park put it in to leave you with absolutely nothing, so that after the divorce, you could never touch the Park family's wealth. It was a trap aimed at you. Kang-min turned a page. But that reciprocal clause protects your own patent perfectly. The trap Park dug to catch you, Park fell into it himself. Silence settled over the Uljiro workshop. Ji-hune stood at the workbench. He held a hand plane and did not set it down. Park had written Clause 7 to seize Jasmine's proprietary asset. He had written the reciprocity of Clause 14 so that, after divorce, Jasmine could not touch the Park family. The two clauses collided. Jasmine's patent was a proprietary asset, filed before the marriage. The reciprocal clause protected it perfectly. The moment Clause 7 reached for it, Clause 14 closed around Park's throat. It was a weapon built to kill an enemy. The one it ran through was Park. The contract Park Jun-hyuk signed with his own hand proves his own crime. Kang-min closed the file and spoke. How much time do we have? The custody hearing is April 3. 3 weeks. Kang-min picked up his briefcase. 2 weeks for forensic document analysis. I will file a simultaneous SEC whistleblower complaint in the U.S. myself. The criminal complaint with the Korean court goes in the day of the hearing. Jasmine looked at him. The cost. We make it a contingency fee. Kang-min looked her in the eye. If I think we will lose, I do not take it. After Kang-min left the workshop, Ji-hune was still standing at the workbench. He did not set down the plane. Jasmine sat in the walnut chair. She took the wooden comb from her bag. She rubbed the broken gaps with her thumb. Ji-hune spoke. Kang-min is one of the top 10 attorneys in Seoul. Jasmine looked up, the comb in her hand. He has never lost. Jasmine said nothing. She put the comb back in her bag. She called the next customer. Parkside moved 4 days later. 1:17 a.m. 3 lawyers from the firm Taesan came down the Uljiro alley. Black suits, document envelopes. The sound of their shoes carried to the back of the alley. They stopped in front of the workshop's steel sliding door. The owners of the wood shops on both sides of the alley looked at the front of the workshop. No one spoke. The lawyers did not open the door. They stood in front of it and called Jasmine out. Jasmine came out. It was an application for a restraining order injunction. Jasmine Adeyemi may not come within 50 meters of Park Jun-hyuk or his family. Visitation with Eva suspended for the time being. The 3 lawyers pressed the documents into Jasmine's hands and turned back. The sound of their shoes left the alley. The alley went quiet again. After the Taesan lawyers left, 2 woodshop owners from the Uljiro alley lingered in front of the workshop. Their eyes turned toward it. A murmur carried. Jasmine heard it. She went into the workshop. She closed the door. She took out the wooden comb. She rubbed the broken gaps with her thumb. Ji-hune stood at the workbench. He held the plane and did not set it down. Neither of them spoke. The smell of sawdust filled the workshop. Ava slept in the crib. Only her breathing could be heard. That night, after Jasmine put Eva to sleep, she spread the documents across the workbench. The patent registration, the prenuptial agreement, JH Beauty Holdings business registration, the injunction application, the custody hearing notice. 5 sheets. Jasmine looked at them in order. Then she took out her phone. It was 2 a.m. Outside, the Uljiro alley was quiet. No one was there, only the wind. Kang Min's forensic analysis came back 2 weeks later. The report ran 214 pages. The core was 3 lines. The manufacturing formula across JH Beauty Holdings' entire product line matches the component sequence of patent US 11,342,891B2 at 97.3%. The source of the company's founding capital is confirmed as a routed deposit from Park Jun-hyuk's personal account. Jasmine's signature on the prenuptial agreement is determined to be forged based on analysis of pen pressure, ink, and the date's print method. Kang Min set the report down in front of Jasmine. It came back cleaner than expected. Jasmine looked at the first page. Signature forgery, patent theft, corporate fraud. She looked at the 3 terms for 3 seconds. Then she closed the report. Can you be ready by April 3? I will. Jasmine took out the wooden comb. She rubbed the broken gaps with her thumb. Her grandmother Abiodun's voice came back. What you carry, no one can take from you, Jasmine. Outside the Uljiro workshop, a spring wind began to blow. Thursday, April 3, 2025, 9:42 a.m. The corridor outside Courtroom 302, Seoul Family Court. Jasmine sat on a bench in the hall. Black jacket, white shirt, hair pinned up, neat. The wooden comb in the inner pocket of her coat. Ava was with Ji-hune at the workshop. Kang Min stood at the next bench, briefcase open, reviewing documents. At the far end of the corridor was Park Jun-hyuk. 4 lawyers from the firm Taesan surrounded him. Park looked at Jasmine. Jasmine looked straight ahead. At 10 a.m. sharp, the courtroom doors opened. Park's lead counsel spoke first. The argument was one. A foreign national single mother with no financial means is unfit to raise a child in the Republic of Korea, currently in a semi-basement at 250,000 won a month. Bank balance unclear. No stable employment. Counsel submitted documents to the bench. Jasmine's lease for the Itaewon semi-basement. Park sat behind his counsel, adjusting his tie. His face was blank. Kang Min stood. He opened his briefcase. He submitted the first document to the bench. Certificate of completed Kickstarter funding. Total raised $502,000. Backers 18,000 people across 34 countries. Second document. Certificate of incorporation for the brand Jasmine's. Sole name, Jasmine Adeyemi. Date of incorporation, March 28, 2025. Third document. Lease for business premises in Uljiro. Deposit 30 million won. Rent 1.8 million won a month. The hand of Park's lead counsel stopped. Kang Min did not stop. Fourth document. A petition supporting Jasmine Adeyemi's custody, signed by 1.5 million people worldwide. United States, United Kingdom, Nigeria, Canada, France, 61 countries, including Korea. Fifth document. The Forensic Analysis Report. 214 pages. Kang Min set the report down before the bench and spoke. The manufacturing formula across JH Beauty Holdings' entire product line matches. The component sequence of patent US 11,342,891B2, held in the name of Jasmine Adeyemi at 97.3%. The courtroom went quiet. Kang Min continued. Forensic analysis of pen pressure, ink, and date printing method determines Jasmine Adeyemi's signature on the prenuptial agreement to be forged. Without his spouse's consent, Park Jun-hyuk forged a signature, committed patent infringement against his spouse's proprietary technology and built a $400 million corporation on it. 6th document. Receipt confirming a whistleblower complaint filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, filed April 2, 2025. Receipt confirming a criminal complaint filed with the Korean prosecution for patent infringement and document forgery. Same date? The expression left Park's face. Kang Min took out the last document. And one more thing for the court. Kang Min opened the prenuptial agreement. I will read Clause 14, drafted and signed by Park Jun-hyuk's own hand. After divorce, the proprietary assets and technology of the former spouse's family and affiliates may not be infringed under any circumstances. And this applies reciprocally to both parties. Kang Min submitted the contract to the bench. The clause written to leave Jasmine with nothing protected Jasmine's own patent perfectly. The trap Park Jun-hyuk dug to catch her, Park Jun-hyuk fell into it himself. Taeson's lead counsel leaned toward Park and whispered something. Park looked straight ahead. His eyes wavered. Jasmine said nothing where she stood. She put her hand in the inner pocket of her coat. The wooden comb. The broken gaps met her palm. This company was built on my patent. Today, I take it back. The courtroom was silent. Park looked at Jasmine. Jasmine did not look at Park. She looked at the judge. The court's ruling came that afternoon. Primary custody of the child, Eva, is granted to Jasmine Adeyemi. Park Jun-hyuk's petition for sole custody is dismissed. The application to freeze the assets of JH Beauty Holdings is granted. The criminal complaint is referred to the prosecution. Kang Min took the ruling and handed it to Jasmine. Jasmine took it. She did not read it. She folded it and put it in her bag. She walked toward the Uljiro workshop, where Eva was. The fall of the Park family unfolded over the next 4 months. All shares of JH Beauty Holdings frozen. 4 directly operated salons suspended. 23 franchise contracts terminated. Park was investigated by the prosecution on charges of patent infringement and document forgery. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission opened an inquiry into JH Beauty Holdings U.S. distribution network. The firm Taeson withdrew from the case. The subsidiary of the 12th-ranked conglomerate stripped Park of his executive title. The 2,990-square-foot Cheongdam-dong apartment was included in the asset freeze. The prenuptial agreement Park had signed was preserved as court evidence. September 12, 2025. An ad went up on a billboard in Times Square, New York. Jasmine's afro hair healing. It was Jasmine Adeyemi's face. The billboard measured 18 meters wide, 12 meters tall. That day, Park was in New York on business. Not exactly business. He had come to New York to answer an SEC subpoena. 2 things were in Park's pocket. 1 credit card, frozen over its limit, and 1 SEC subpoena. He was crossing Times Square when he saw the billboard. 18 meters wide, 12 meters tall. Jasmine Adeyemi's face. Park stood there for 3 seconds. The subpoena rustled in his pocket. Then he walked. The way Jasmine had walked 6 months earlier in the Cheongdam-dong lobby, only the direction was different. Jasmine had walked forward. Park walked backward, back to the Uljiro workshop. An afternoon that same September, Ji-hune was at the workbench. He was finishing a new piece of solid wood. Eva, now 3, sometimes called Ji-hune Dad. Ji-hune did not answer. He only lifted her, without a word, and set her in the walnut chair. Jasmine left the triumph of Times Square behind her and came back to a corner of the Uljiro workshop. In her hands were the share certificates, the $400 million she had frozen and reclaimed from Park Jun-hyuk's JH Beauty Holdings. She set the documents down, quietly, on Ji-hune's worn workbench, the way she had once laid her own jacket over the table he built, in the Brooklyn rain, 7 years before. Ji-hune, now write your name on these. Ji-hune set down the plane and looked at the documents. Then he looked at Jasmine. The 2 of them made each other no promise, no confession. Whether he gripped the pen toward the documents or pushed them aside and took her rough, working hands instead, the record does not say. Only this, inside the Uljiro workshop, the coarse smell of sawdust and the cool scent of shea butter mixed and moved, with no boundary between them. The wooden comb sat in the outer pocket of her bag. Outside, afternoon light came down on the Uljiro alley. Park Jun-hyuk, who had converted everything into numbers, lost $400 million and walked away backward. And Lee Ji-hune, the man who saw value where others saw only numbers. Did he sign the $400 million document Jasmine held out? Or was the single feeling that began in a Brooklyn downpour 7 years ago already enough for him? What does the next page look like for two people who kept the one thing that cannot be taken? Leave your answer in the comments. It was a miracle on Uljiro, built by a human sincerity that does not depreciate. This story is a work of fiction.
Every scene you watched was born from countless hours of love, imagination, and careful crafting. Thank you for walking this creative journey with us behind the scenes.